Well, thank you all so much for this. And we're here to make history today. Think about this. The first event in Hong Kong that Jasper has brought us all together without masks, after that word that I'm not supposed to say and pay the $100, but pandemic. But this session we're going to introduce in association with, talking about how important it is to bring the whole industry together. So with that Flo, she heads up PCMA, she's up from Singapore. We're going to learn about what's there happening in Singapore. Also Chloe, she's with ILEA, the International Live Events Association. So why don't we grab a seat up here? Okay, black carpet, it's definitely hot on stage. But collectively, what we see here in the industry is exciting that we're all coming together because together we're stronger. I think we saw it in the rugby union. Separately, we're all individual players. But collectively, as an industry, we're really able to help make change, address the challenges that we're facing in the world, especially in our industry. And you look at Hong Kong, it's going to be a completely different city connected with GBA. When you see the Art and West Kowloon District built out, Sports Kai-Tech, not just one stadium, but an entire area that's being developed, Sky City, that you look at 2025 is going to be a completely different city. And we only have a short year and a half to really say, how do we build the industry? How do we build the talent? How do we build and prepare for what's coming to Hong Kong in this time? So with that, why don't we start off with Flo and tell us a little bit about PCMA.
So first and foremost, welcome back Hong Kong. It took you guys long enough.
Typical Singapore.
Come on. No, so PCMA, we are headquarters in Chicago. We're an association for business event professionals. And we're very blessed to have Darren, Deb, Robin, and Beatrice, who's on our board here in Asia Pacific. We essentially represent event professionals who work mainly in the conferencing event space. With our headquarters in Chicago, we have a Singapore office, but really the team in Singapore runs across the region. And we're blessed to be back here in Hong Kong.
And Chloe, Aaliyah.
Hi, I'm Chloe from International Live Event Association Asia chapter. International Live Event Association is a globally live event associations. We have about over 50 chapters with over 35,000 members. And we have the headquarters in US, and we have different US affiliates and chapters and Canadian chapters as well. Asia is under EMEA, which is the structure with Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia. And the focus and the mission is about focusing on building network for different event professionals and promote the industry practice. At the same time, we do have industry recognitions with the Esprit Award every year. We also have the examination recognitions with the CSEP, which stands for Certified Special Event Planners Program. And our members in Asia from top Asia companies, they do have offices in regions, like we see, and we're coming from a variety of backgrounds. Like I see Dave Andrews from Chuckry Onions for team buildings. We also have Sam's from Showbiz Creations, and he's running events in Hong Kong, Thailand, Asia. We also have Hamson Wei from At Once, exhibitions in Hong Kong, Greater Bay Area, and Richard over there, Richard Zheng from Lead Rich, running concerts as well as Metaverse and Exiles events. And this is pretty much about the background. So today maybe I will share some of the views from Europe or Asia.
Well, I think this is what we want to see. What's happening in the other parts of the world? I guess, why don't we start with Flo in Asia? As you've seen, you've come out of this a year ago. So what's happening across Asia that you've seen, and how's that going to be affecting the live events industry moving forward from today?
Well, there's a lot to unpack from this question, right, Darren? But I think first and foremost, I know Darren takes a dig at me every time I talk, right? Because that's a Singaporean. So let me just say that I spent 12 years in China, and I only just returned to Singapore at the end of 2020. when we started out last year in the Asia Pacific region opening with Australia and then Southeast Asia, I really mean it when I say that we were waiting for Hong Kong and China to come back. The region was just not back to what it used to be, and it cannot because we are missing the North Asia engine. And so from a regional standpoint, we were back, but we weren't really back as a region. I think when we look at Australia, they started back out in the market in March last year, and Singapore came out in April, followed by the rest of the Southeast Asian countries. As you can imagine, the return was explosive. For the first 4 to 6 months, we saw such a huge growth. And I was talking to Darren about, I gave him a couple of examples of how crazy the market was. The demand outstripped the supply so badly that venues were basically telling all the event organizers, if you are not ready to sign, don't talk to me. Because rooms were just flying off the rack and then venues were flying off the rack. They were not ready to have a pencil conversation. It was like, are you signing or are you not signing? So I think in addition to that, when you look at places like Singapore, whereby they had F1 in the second half of the year, room rates rocketed to even before pre-pandemic. It was the highest in 10 years. It had nothing to do with pandemic anymore. So what you're really seeing is it's the euphoria of return, right? So it was a suppressed demand and that it was explosive. I think we're seeing this year a bit more of a normalizing, but still demand is very, very high. Even at the end of last year, venues, hotels, and everybody was telling me they were already 80% booked. So if you are looking to do anything in the region, and you don't get ahead of the game, it's going to be hard for you to get space, get rooms, get suppliers, get agencies behind you.
So the key takeaway is that we have to be planning out further now. Once it comes back fast, all of a sudden everything's booked out.
Yeah, pretty much. And I would say that, especially here in Hong Kong, even in the mainland, your return, right, or sort of you coming back to the world was pretty sudden. And I know that a lot of people were caught off guard, but if you really want to get back out there and re-engage with your communities, with your customers around the region, you need to start planning now ahead of time, because otherwise you will see yourself having very, very few options.
What about Europe? It's interesting to say they've come out of this probably a year ago. What's happening in Germany and
They
Europe?
have, what the demand is rising sharply, and then they're expecting in 2023, the demand is continue. They're expecting more than 50 or 60% back, and even our Asian members as well, they are expecting this kind of return in terms of business. And for business travel, it's starting to pick up as well. Incentive travel as well. Like myself, as an example, I received many inquiries about incentive trips, booking retreats to Japan, or even weddings in Chiang Mai. The challenge here is I was going to plan for a site visit to the wedding in Chiang Mai. I could only find one flight from Hong Kong to Chiang Mai. And there's another site visit to New Zealand, and I couldn't. It's very difficult to get seats as well. So this is another challenge in terms of the demand.
But you'd said that in Germany, it's the industry's changing. They're moving away from RFPs.
Yeah.
I think that the industry is collectively saying, forget about all these RFPs. We're going a direct source. We have to really change how we interact as an industry.
Yeah, 92% of our members from Germany mentioned that there's no more pitching as direct award. And there's no more pitching policy for agency or service and contracts. Even for our Asian members, they also mentioned that they try to avoid pitching projects, but they will mainly focus on core clients' RFPs. So this is one of the things. And that also linked to another thing is about the shorter lead time of preparing or organizing the events. Germany was switching from 18 months down to 12 months or even 8 to 9 months to try to focus on non-winter events. And so that even though they may expect restrictions back in the past years, and this become a practice. And for our China venue as well, they mentioned that if they want to coincide with the policy, whenever there is a cycle of restriction lifts, whoever has the venue, whoever can find the manpower, they got the events. So that's very similar to signing contracts with the venues and all that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what you mentioned is on the agency side. So a large part of the PCMA membership are actually organizers, event planners in companies, in corporates, in brands, and also in associations. So on the flip side, kind of agency is having their heyday, right? Because now agencies are telling, I'm sorry, I'm not taking your RFP, guys. So now companies are scrambling to say, where do I find my agencies? So increasingly now, I think companies need to look at how are you engaging with your agency, maybe not on a project-to-project basis, but more on a year-long strategic retainer, so that you can be assured of you are getting the help, the support, the intel, and the agility that you need. And I think that really goes to speaking about the entire supply-demand issue that I was just talking about.
But isn't that about what's the role of events? And it's about a strategy that enhances your business. Same thing as we've been talking about Hong Kong, how the power of events and how does it affect your business and become a part of that rather than just the event group. We used to have the event teams, event groups, event agencies, but now it's connected to digital marketing, to returns, to data and all of that. So isn't that a critical change?
No, absolutely. So first and foremost, I think like PCMA really advocates for the industry and the profession at large to say that what is the economic and social value events bring to countries, to cities, to organizations. And so what we're seeing over the pandemic is the blurring of lines between physical, hardcore, face-to-face events and what is happening digitally, not just in terms of like what's happening in the box, but also digital campaigns that is happening. So there is that convergence that is happening. And that is really putting the events folks into, like I would say, is bringing them to the table to say that what is the value that you're trying to create, right? Because there is, especially now with the return of events happening in such a short term, a lot of business owners are just saying, let's do an event, let's do an event. But what is your purpose of doing an event? What is your KPI? What are you trying to achieve and what are you trying to measure? So I think that is that part that business event professionals, or what we call business event strategists, need to be able to articulate so that you can really direct your resources. Because one thing that we all know is inflation is killing us. I mean, average event cost has gone up 10 to 15%. How are we going to transfer that cost back to the consumers or to the participants at large? So we need to be a lot more strategic and, you know, in a way calculated about what we're trying to achieve in order to still deliver the right experience for them.
But are we having a major problem on talent as well? I think we talk this globally that we're all facing this, especially with Gen Z. They're like, is it exciting to be in the event or the hospitality industry? And everybody's facing that big challenge right now in talent. So what are you seeing and what do we have to do as an industry to overcome this challenge?
Linking to the points that Florence was mentioning about business strategy, pitching, and the digital market, it was, I mean, the reason behind it is because of the downsizing of a lot of events and companies. We saw members having what we call ups and downs, but now it's downs and ups. We see members from Asia and Germany that they are looking, well, it was like a 50% or more decrease in terms of employees numbers. That means the team size down and the office space down, and they may cut the locations in terms of offices and operations in other regions. But now, because of the demands, they are expecting a growth. Everyone is going out there to hire people, and that's the challenge. Where can we find people? The professional event staff and some of the experienced technicians just switched to another industry because of the downsizing, cancellations of events, or moving out to other regions. And we also see our members coming back to Hong Kong. Well, they shift the focus out of Hong Kong because of the past 2 years, and they're starting to organize events in other Asian regions, in Macau, in mainland, or in Singapore. But now they're moving back to Hong Kong and focus in Hong Kong and traveling back and forth from Hong Kong, experiencing that 1 hour or 2 hours Greater Bay Area circle. So that will be another change. But the idea is the shift up, and then the challenge is HR.
I think it's the role that also the events are playing now. You look, as an example, a traditional event like Business at Design Week was like Art Basel for the designers. It's 1 week program. We had 15,000 people come. But what we've done is transition this to a year-long program. We created BODW Plus, which is a platform, online platform for sharing and building that. We have smaller events throughout the year, one major event in June, one major event also in December. But collectively now, we've gone from let's say 15,000 people in 2018 to this past BODW, including streaming, China streaming, television. We built out content to reach 1 million people versus a 15,000. And I think it's that they've changed it, it's become part of their business. So their own teams have been changing their talents within the Hong Kong Design Center, the different type of people they're hiring, and bringing not just for events, but collectively in their entire makeup, which I think is an important element that we all have to look to. How do we change our own teams? I think Ed, Cathay, you even said the same thing, is even when we went through those challenging years, it was we have to look at our own teams. They have to take on new roles. And especially now when we have all these new technologies coming, we'll talk about a little bit later today, it's exciting to see that. But as an industry, are we going to go backwards or are we moving forward? What do you see now in the next 18 months, 24 months?
If you are talking about Hong Kong and China at large, I think the next 12 months will be going back to what it was. And that's kind of what we saw with the rest of the world, right? The 12 months of coming out of 3 repressed years is going to be, I don't care about whatever digital or hybrid or virtual, we need to be back face to face. And then it will normalize again to, hey, we actually had some really good learnings during the digital times whereby we were able to reach a much bigger audience. We were able to create much more customized, personalized experiences for smaller groups of audiences. So I think people are not forgetting that we actually learn the benefits of digital, but we're in a euphoria stage of, okay, we need to do the face-to-face stuff first before we get back into more, maybe, I would say, more of a hybrid balance strategy.
I had a background teaching in hotel school in Hong Kong Poly U, and during my time, events, I would say tourism and events is top programs, top the chart of the DESE JUPAS choices. And my subjects of event management was a very popular subject that we have 200 or 300 students opting this elective. And students was expecting to be, well, they like to be an event planners. They want to organize parties, weddings, and they thought it was fun. And, but Dave was complaining last night that he couldn't find anyone. He's hiring another event manager.
Everybody across Hong Kong is facing that.
Yeah,
currently.
that's the problem. ILEA have a mentorship program that we actually try to match up our mentors and some of the young generations to help them to get in touch with this industry, try to appreciate the industry, learning about practices, and that was one thing. But definitely, costs will be higher in terms of HR because of this challenge as well. But that's another point.
Well, I think collectively it's nice to get everybody's opinion. And today, now over lunch, it's really about meeting new people outside of that industry. And how do we start working together as one industry, collectively, talking to whether it's music, entertainment, business-to-business conferences. We're all in this together. And so look forward to a fun lunch and some exciting afternoon sessions. All right, thank you.
Thank you.